Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at hospitality management. Learning outcomes includes, evaluate the impact of the macro environment issues on the global hospitality and tourism industry. Analyze a range of session aims to explore what globalization means to you. Define globalization. Identify the benefits and negatives of globalization, and debate whether globalization can bring the developing world to the same level as the West. Overview: what does globalization mean to me and to you? Definitions, benefits and negatives of globalization, and debating, between you or in your minds as regards to research what you think this means. So, what does globalization mean to you? You should actually try and do some more research and look at some definitions and look at 2 or 3 definitions of globalization, and then really go into them and then come up with your own view. Do you agree with these definitions of globalization or not? That's something you should be looking at and trying then to relate this to the tourism and hospitality industry. So definitions are used to describe the vast number of changes to the social culture and political culture and the economy, which has shaped the world in the last 50 years. The consolidation and expansion of corporate power, and how much now we've seen, companies grow so big and become so powerful. The McDonald effect of food and culture. So if we look at the definition from the IMF, it says it's the process through which an increasingly free flow of ideas, peoples, goods, services and capital leads to the integration of economies and societies. If we look at another definition from the OECD, it says it's the geographic dispersion of industrial and service activities. For example, research and development, sourcing of inputs, production and distribution, and cross-border networking of companies, for example through joint ventures and the sharing of assets. I mean, even if we look at the airports and the technologies that they are using in terms of tourism, and we think about the airports in Europe, when you actually go and travel, you think about the boarding pass now that you don't need to collect from the airport. You can actually download and print your own boarding pass. You can have the boarding pass on your phone and scan it as you go into the airport. In addition to that, they have the eye kind of scanners and the fingerprint scanners as well to try and monitor you and help the process and the free flow of people going through the airports. And who's to say that in the future you won't just walk through a room and then cameras will scan your face and your eyes, and then it will identify exactly who you are, so you won't have to queue up anymore. And these technologies are being used across all the different countries in Europe. So again, if you think about technology and research and development and cross-border networking of companies and what governments are actually doing, then this is a good thing. And we think about some global companies in the tourism and hospitality industry. In terms of hospitality, you have Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, KFC, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, Costa Coffee, the Magic Bean Shop. And even, in terms of accommodation services, you've got many hotel chains like Hilton Hotels, the Marriott, and so on and so forth. So you have all these hospitality and tourism type organizations, which are global type organizations. And what does it involve? It involves an expansion of trading goods and services between countries, an increase in transfers of financial capital across national boundaries, including foreign direct investment (FDI) by multinational companies and the investments by sovereign wealth funds, the internationalization of products and services, and the development of global brands. So it involves these companies expanding And on one hand, you could argue that these companies expanding are now creating businesses. They're creating jobs, and they're hopefully paying taxes to that country, and the employees who are getting paid will obviously be paying taxes to that country as well. So but ultimately it is the expansion of trade and goods and services between countries. Benefits of globalization: consumers have more choice. The world we share, the technological, social, and economic benefits of products. I think definitely sharing the technological and social benefits of products. And the world we see now, because of these technological changes and social media and the internet, and how we actually do online banking, and how we make bookings into hospitality, how we make buy things and so on and so forth, makes it a lot easier to travel, a lot easier to see places. And so all of these technology and social changes are kind of like spread around the world, and everyone's benefiting from it, and everyone's implementing these things. So we're seeing a great deal of change which is being shared around the world. And the world is a smaller place, and it's a lot cheaper now than it was back in the 80s to travel from country to country. Back in the 80s you didn't have these low cost airlines, but now you've got low cost airlines. You could travel one way to one country for £50. So it's a lot smaller because of technology change, because people know more about what's happening around the world, and because it's cheaper to travel. And there are also other benefits, including cheaper products. Benefits to globalization in the UK. English is the language of the internet and international business and commerce, giving the UK a head start against the likes of France in developing e-commerce businesses and services. Globalization has helped to elevate London into the world's financial centre, for the European time zone, with a large and wide-ranging financial services sector, including banking and insurance. Other benefits includes, a large number of UK companies sell overseas, to which Britishness is part of the appeal. The UK, educational institutions benefit from, overseas students, absolutely, and the overseas students coming over to the UK universities actually pay more than the domestic students. Availability of a wide range of, produce and goods in the UK, consumers at lower prices. Some of the negatives of globalization. So what do you think are some of the negatives of globalization? Can you name some? So some of the negatives of globalization includes global markets, are not subject to the same regulations. Manufacturing moved to cheaper markets, and so in your home market, your domestic market, it could mean that some companies, there'll be job losses in the home market. Even if you look about customer services now in the UK, lots of customer services companies actually outsource their customer services to places like India, because it's far cheaper for the labour in those countries. If you think about Dyson moved over and moved its manufacturing plant overseas, for cheaper labour to lower his operating costs. Locally produced products can often seem more expensive when the big retailers are actually importing these goods in. Tesco's imports from Europe at least 35% of the goods which they sell. How do you counter these negatives? Well, you increase the skill levels in the workforce to raise productivity. You develop a modern industrial strategy for the global marketplace. Securing UK energy supplies and investing in sustainable renewable energy technologies. And improving transport links in growth areas of the country, making it easier to get these goods and services. And investing in new science and technology to get a head start on what the marketplace is actually doing in comparison to other countries. So, are these relevant to the hospitality industry? What do you think? Are they relevant? There are some generic impacts in terms of competition. Competition, hopefully reduces prices, so it's better for the end consumer. Cultural influences, homogenization, again, can be positive for the end consumer. Cost of globalization to the UK. The wages in the UK are high in global terms, and thus the UK is unable to compete in many sectors such as manufacture or goods or services or other goods where the labour costs are a significant element of the price. Thus British workers are losing their jobs when companies move abroad or fail to compete, as we've discussed earlier with Dyson and customer service departments for various companies. So again, it is cheaper to go to other countries where the labour is cheaper. Open to risks outside of the control of the UK government. International capital flows and crisis. So after today, you really should hopefully be able to define globalization, understand the benefits, recognize the negative sides of globalization, and to create an argument and debate your side of the argument, whatever you feel your side of the debate is on. Are you pro or against globalization? And how do you think this specifically relates to the tourism and hospitality industry? So thank you today from Mr. Tan.